All right. Steve, do you want me to jump in and get going, or did you want to? Sure. So, well, thanks everybody for joining us this evening. I'm Cody Lundquist. I get to be the principal at the high school, and thank you for spending a little bit of time on your Thursday evening to talk a little bit about coming back into person next week. I want to thank Dr. Salerno and those on our senior leadership team, Sarah Straka and Scott DeYoung and Sarah Eartham, Brian Johnson for helping us out and lead and being able to help navigate through this. I know Lisa Corcoran's here, our associate principal, Colleen Nessheim, as well as an associate principal. So just a lot of people put their hands in this, along with some amazing teachers and leadership staff at our building. So please know this is certainly a team effort as we kind of work through all the different pieces here. But I'm going to jump right in and kind of just talk. First off, I'm going to talk a little bit about, if you haven't been to our website at all, we have a great page of, we call our announcements. Our daily announcements is a page that when you're looking for information, we hope to put as much as we can here. This is for students, this is for families, and it's a great resource. And we'll get this slideshow out so people can click these links and have access to the things too. So please know that we'll make the slideshow available. But if you're ever having questions about a day or what's happening at the high school, this is a great page. It's certainly also, we'll have our scrolling announcements that actually our high school has on our TVs. It's a great page to get some information. So just as a resource, we hope to be able to provide a lot of information there. A little bit of overview for this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple different things. We'll talk about the schedule early on, and then we'll get to the place where those that are all virtual. If you are students are all virtual, you're welcome to stay on. If you maybe be onboarding fourth quarter, possibly. But the rest of it's going to be some nitty-gritty in-person in the building stuff. And so we want to make sure that we respect your time and also able to answer your questions too. So if you have questions, certainly please stay on. Then we'll jump into some school nutrition, and I would call that lunch procedures, what that's going to look like. We have a wonderful lunch program who's been doing amazing work around the community as we've been going through this process. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like in person. And then we'll go through safety protocols in the building around all the work that we've been doing around one-way calls and masking and classroom separations and just a ton of different work. And then at the end, we'll be able to get your questions. So yeah, we've got a big agenda that I'm going to try to not pontificate too much and give people an opportunity to ask questions, but hopefully I can answer some things even ahead of time as we talk here. So first, I'm going to jump into a little bit of our high school learning schedules. And what you'll see here is our daily schedule, and I'll talk a little bit about some of these pieces later on. Monday and Tuesday are A through K last name in person, and then L through Z on Thursday, Friday. All virtual. You get the opportunity to have all 4 of those days as learning opportunities, and you will be logging in. And then on the opposite cohort, so if my last name is Lundquist, I'd be on a Thursday, Friday. On Monday, Tuesday, I would be logging in, and I'd be logging directly live into the classroom for those periods on Mondays and Tuesdays. Stat 1 is time for students to be able to access teachers by choice or teachers to access them. And that's where they can request and they can go see a teacher they need help with. So Stat 1 will look different most days for students to be able to get that choice and get the support they need, maybe that extra learning, do a retake, pre-teaching, reteaching, just a lot of great opportunities. And then Stat 2 that you'll see kind of paired up with lunch. And we split the lunch up into 2 for safety purposes. And they will then be with their stat teacher, which you'd find at Infinite Campus on their schedule. And they'll be with that same teacher every day. And that's also where they'll be getting what we call ACP, so our academic and career planning lessons, our mental health lessons. Just an opportunity to connect and build community happens during that time, and they'll be able to be with that group every single day. All virtual students can use that time to connect with teachers, and we'll talk a little bit more later about stat and efficiency, and then kind of the afternoon. So that's kind of a breakdown of what our day looks like. And hopefully I can provide some more context and put some more leaves on the tree as it may be later on as we kind of move forward. But let's talk a little bit about kind of what those days look like. Again, students are participating in all 4 days. We call it concurrent learning. So students will be logging in all 4 days or in person in class all 4 days. That Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And so the Monday and Thursday are periods 1, 3, 5, 7. Tuesday, Thursdays are 2, 4, 6, 8. And a question I get is, why is it odd and even? It's more confusing. We don't get it. And I'll tell you, the kids will take a couple days. They'll get used to it. All of a sudden, the third will be their second period and so forth. But how Infinite Campus had it built, we don't want to make blow up master schedules. It's a big process. But we also just had some staffing and working with the middle school. It's just one of those logistical pieces that work better for a 6-12 decision. So apologize for the confusion there, but trust me, the kids will jump right in. They'll get used to it quickly, and our staff will as well. And then you also will have stat each day, which I talked a little bit about. And efficiency is something we'll talk about as well a little bit later, but it's where students can kind of pick where they want to go. They can rank teachers. Teachers can request them, and it's just this opportunity for students and teachers to connect in a different way that's maybe not necessarily normal on their day. And then Wednesday is no scheduled classes. This is asynchronous assignments. These are a time for students to study, turn things off, take a break, just try to like settle in. Possible small groups. We will have small groups. I think some clubs and organizations are finding ways to meet. We're having conversation about AP courses. If your student has an AP course, it certainly is stressful to kind of push to get to the AP test. And there might be some virtual learning options on Wednesday for our AP team. So those things we might kind of start with nothing and then slowly add on as we get more comfortable within the system. So that's kind of a breakdown. I think our next day is a little bit more continued. Those in-person days I'm going to talk about specifically here, 7:45. And that is a pretty hard date. So if you're used to maybe dropping your kid off a little bit early, or the student walks, 7:45 is when we're opening the door up, no earlier. It is about safety and being able to look after people. We don't want students kind of roaming the halls and hanging out, by each other. We want them to go directly to their stat 1, and 7:45 is when we can do that safely. So 7:45 doors will open. We'll be open to 8:05. And for those that get there a little bit earlier, you might have to wait in a car, wait outside. I apologize for that inconvenience, but it's really about safety. Safety has been the #1 thing we've worked on, and we want to make sure that we're accommodating everybody and being as safe as possible. There are 4 different doors. Door 1 is kind of our main entrance. Door 7 will be unlocked. It's the band doors kind of facing the middle school. Door 13 is our cafeteria doors, and then door 30 student parking lot. So those are 4 doors. The students can log in, whether they're coming from IC off the bus, being dropped off. There's a lot of different opportunities for the kids to come in. Like I talked about, A through K on Monday, Tuesday, L through Z on Thursday, Friday. And then remember, all students will attend virtually, whether it's 4 days or the opposite 2 days of their cohort. So I'll continue to kind of push that through and through because I want to make sure people remember that. Now I'm going to talk a little about STAT because we've talked a little bit about it, and it's I think it's new for parents to kind of see this. It's new for us to have 2 on there. But I want to talk a little bit about it. So in-person students are going to be scheduled. We call it Efficiency. This is an amazing program where we put rosters in and teachers can request a student, and the student can say, I want to go see this teacher. Teachers can put kids, there's a ranking system in terms of priority. It's a really great system that we've really appreciated using last year. Now we're going to use it this year. So Stat 1 is the beginning of the day. And this is where students will, the day before or the school day before, roughly around 3:30 or 4, students will get an email. You're going to go to room 724 on Stat 1 tomorrow, and the student will come. When they get here in the morning, 7:45, 7:50, 7:55, they'll go directly to that stat. And on those 2 days where they're in person, Stat for those that are all virtual or opposite cohorts during that Stat 1, it is not a mandatory time. Teachers can certainly request those students. So students still need to keep an eye on the email because if a teacher wants to check in with you virtually, that is something they need to be available for. But we wanted to be cognizant of the amount of screen time that all students are on. So we wanted to not say, okay, those that are all virtual, you're going to be spending 8 straight hours on that computer. And we know that can be really difficult. So we try to use this time wisely. So know that Stat 1 is mostly for those hybrid, but there are those opportunities to be requested when they're all virtual. So they still need to keep an eye on that email. And then Stat 2 is going to that Stat Advisor. That's that person that we've been trying to build a community with for a number of years. They're used to this person. They have community. They've got relationships in there. And they'll be staying there for that Stat 2 that entire time on Monday, Tuesday. And really, we're hoping that that's an opportunity for all virtual students to really connect with our teachers. And that's going to be the time that those teachers are really connecting with the all virtual. They'll have some kids in front of them that can be working on work, but the all virtual will certainly be something that they can log into, see. And then the virtual only students, like I talked about, for that stat, students will receive an email notification in their email. And then during Stat 1 and 2, they might be requested, but Stat 2 more likely, Stat 1 here and there. And then virtual only students will only be joining stat rooms on Monday or Thursday for the ACP lesson. So we'll talk a little bit about that on Monday with or Thursday of next week or Monday, depending on what section they're in. And so sorry about that. So we've got first day of class. Yeah, let's talk a little about the first day of class because it's going to be a little different. Students, whether it's your first day in person next Thursday, L through Z, or A through K on Monday, we want to talk, it's going to look a little bit different. So they'll go directly to that stat homeroom that's on their schedule, and they'll see stat. It's usually between second and third on their Infinite Campus schedule, what it looks like right now. They'll go directly there. During that time, students are going to talk about safety protocols. We had some students make a really kind of fun video yesterday, came in the building and did a little more entertaining than maybe us adults can do about social distancing and drinking fountains and entrances. And so students will go through that. They'll learn efficiency. Freshman families, please be assured that we have a strong process to teach those students how to use efficiency. And for the rest of the students who maybe got a little rusty because it's almost been a year, we have a good process that you'll be kind of brushing back up on efficiency. And actually during that Stat 1, you're going to sign up for Friday for a place to go. And so you'll kind of get that first experience of where you go Friday morning. We will certainly have staff and us about making sure we're guiding students and knowing where they go with the one-way halls. We know it can be confusing, but they'll be able to sign up for things on that day. On Friday, the 19th or the 23rd, then that first staff will report to that new area where they've been requested or where they've signed up to go. I know that it can sound really confusing. Our students who have done this before kind of get it, and they've gone through the paces. Our freshmen, we rest assured we will work really hard to get them ready to go. And actually in that first day, our freshmen will also be doing a tour with link leaders. So they'll be walking around the building for those who haven't been in the building. They'll get a great tour from students safely around the building so they know where classes are and kind of know where to go. So that first day will look a little bit different, but we will get students ready to kind of jump right in and know those protocols. Safety protocols. Let's see here, one second. So safety protocols, we're going to talk a little about masks. I also have talked about what to do if a student is sick, what to do if they get sick at school, what to do if they're sick at home, and then just in general, what the things we're going to do to make sure the building stays safe. Let's talk about masks. Masks is an area where it's required and essential at all times while in any Mount Horeb school district building. Whether you're in the high school, whether you're going to a different building, you need to wear a mask. And stop, period. That's what it is. We have the CDC mask guidelines. I have a little image of what our response protocol is. But essentially what it is if you accidentally, your mask kind of falls down, I'm going to remind you, you listen. That happens a couple times. We're okay. We'll have conversations about, protocols and what you need to be doing. That's okay. But if a student doesn't wear a mask or refuses to wear a mask and they don't follow our directions, we have faith. We can provide a free and appropriate education through our virtual platform. And we'll be making sure that after about 2 times, the students will have them go virtual and we'll have a conversation when they're ready to come back and follow our mask guidelines. And same with, yes, a student can be respectful and they can respond and yeah, I'll put my mask up, but that can only happen so many times too until we maybe need to have a conversation if virtual is the best path. Masks are, I would call it science. I would say it works. It is something that we hold near and dear to our heart to keep students safe, to keep staff safe, and to keep everyone safe, even in the community. So know that masks are something that are mandated, and we have a path virtually that we certainly can have students go within our right with providing a free and appropriate education. So it's an area that I feel very strongly about. I know our staff does, our community does. And I kind of say here, we can wear masks, and I ask that even in the community on weekends, how safe you are out in the community as families, and the work you do on weekends and at night with your family can have an impact on our building. And so the more that we want to have our students in the building and keep our building safe, the more we need families to join us in that shared burden of making safe choices on weekends and at nights, because we want to have our students here. I'm actually excited and thrilled to get students back in the building. And I get to see them every once in a while, sports and stuff, and it just brings joy to my heart. And we want to be able to have that consistent. And the only way we can do that consistently is if not only we're being safe within the building, but people are being safe outside of the building as well, because that has an impact. So I just urge people to think about that kind of shared burden piece as we kind of move forward. Now, on this document, on the next slide, we put together a family FAQ. I will be sending this out tomorrow morning with everybody. What it is different scenarios. We've gotten a lot of questions. A lot of them are the same. And we started thinking of like, okay, how can we kind of answer these ahead of time? Whether it's masks, can they wear a gaiter? Will there be additional masks? What can I do for lunch? What happens with social distancing? What about my junior for lunch and study hall? All these questions that we're kind of consistently getting, we found a place to kind of put them. So I'll share this out with the slideshow and the video tomorrow with families So you have this resource, but I want to just highlight this resource here because I hope it's a place that people can kind of continuously go back to if they do have questions. Okay, what if my child is ill? I think this is a big one that gets asked, and you know, what will we do if a student is not feeling well? If a student's not feeling well in the morning, we do ask you to leave, keep them home. Little sniffle, little cough, any of those symptoms that are COVID related, let us know, give us the call. The student's not feeling well, I'm gonna keep them home today. Can they log in virtually and learn from home? Yes, they can. Perfect, that is just fine. In our system, you might see that we say like principal excused, learning from home. No, that's just how we document with our system for safety. It is not a ding against you in terms of our system. We just need to keep track of those pieces, but we know that you're there learning. We know that you're learning there virtually. So we'll keep track of that, but Infinite Campus, how we have to track things can be a little finicky sometimes, but that is our documentation system. If you have questions, obviously you can always call us up, ask. We have a great school nurse and CJ Goodwin. You can talk to the district office. I got this scenario, and CJ is happy to take the call and answer any questions that she can. If a student does test positive for COVID-19, we do ask, and please report that to our district. We have a protocol we have to go through regarding contact tracing, looking at what classes. In the high school, I'll tell you, it's going to be a big project, right? If a student sits in one class, they are moving throughout the building. Unlike some of their buildings where they're stationary, we need to make sure that we can see who they had close contact with, whether it was in the hallway for a long period of time or cafeteria or in a classroom. We need to be really diligent about that. We want to make sure we contact all people involved. So we ask that please make sure that if it was a positive test, that you let us know as soon as possible so we can go through our process to keep everybody safe and keep the community safe. And then just know that we do say once you send your student to our building, you're kind of acknowledging that the student doesn't have a fever, that they do not have symptoms, where it is a acknowledgement that they have done, that the student, that to the best of your ability, know that they are healthy. We know that not every student has a fever when they have COVID. We know that there are symptoms that are asymptomatic, but these are ways that we can be as safe as we possibly can. If you do have other questions regarding this, you can always reach out to myself, our AP team, with Talisa and Colleen. Again, CJ Goodwin is a great resource. I'd probably end up directing you to her anyways, because she's going to be able to give you some great answers regarding kind of the healthcare piece of it. Let's see here. Students, what if they feel ill at school? Well, we want them to report to the office. We will have them sit out in the hall outside of the office in our student services hall. We have 2 locations. If it's a headache, we may say, hey, just sit here, relax, get some water, rest. If they are COVID symptoms, we do have a specific space where we'll have the student go, and we'll be contacting families to have that student picked up as soon as possible. So we do ask families to be somewhat aware that we may call and say that we need the student to be picked up, but we do have a special place that is just for those cases. We'll be wearing our PPE. We'll have systems in place to get that student there safely. And we'll be using an entrance that is right by that office, so their students not walking around the halls. With the mitigation piece, these are just the things we're doing, right? Face coverings, physical distancing of 6 feet, one-way hallways. We have a map of one-way halls. If you're going from music to math, it is going to be a little bit of a trek, I'll tell you. You're going to be huffing it, but we have increased our passing time by a minute to hopefully make up for that. But the one-way hallways, when possible, frequent hand sanitizing. Every classroom is going to have hand sanitizer in it. Every classroom is going to have a spray bottle for disinfectant. Every classroom is going to be able to wipe things down. And there's hand sanitizer throughout the building, as well as being able to wash hands in a bathroom. Contact tracing is something I talked a little bit about that we'll be doing as a building. Mask breaks. Let me talk about mask breaks. I know that in the middle school has scheduled ones. The high school, it just looks a little bit different. What it is, the students will be able to step outside safely, separate out 6 feet, and just take their mask off for a couple minutes, and just be able to get some fresh air. Our juniors and seniors who can leave for study hall or leave for lunch, that might not be necessary, but our freshmen and sophomores, we really be mindful of that. So there will be opportunities that the teachers will take to just step out to the closest door. We have a lot of entrances to outside. But we want to be able to do that safely, so there will possibly be mask breaks, but those are all outside. And then just the increased air exchange. I want to thank the district and Dave Reed specifically for doing a ton of great work around making sure that we can exchange air 6 to 8 times an hour, which came out of a Harvard study, which is one that we closely watch because there's a lot of great protocols in there that we're getting our information from. So those are just some of the mitigation things that we're doing. I think of myself, I'll be wearing a shield and a mask at lunch. Our staff have shields up around their desks. Again, we want to make sure we're being as safe as possible when we come in, when we're working through the building. So that's kind of some of the safety pieces. And then school nutrition. Breakfast will be served 7:45 to 8. And that will be in the cafeteria. Students have to stay in the cafeteria. They eat it there. They throw things out right there. No food goes to classrooms. No snacks in classrooms. The only thing we'll ask is students have water bottles. That is the only thing. The water drinking fountain pieces will be off. They need to have a water bottle to fill up. The breakfast program and lunch is still being offered. Both are still free to participate. So please use those resources. Even if it's, I'm going to grab a lunch, throw my backpack, I'm going to have it after school because I know that I've got something later on. Please do that. That's a great opportunity. We do have a school nutrition page. And then our juniors and seniors are released for lunch. And this is a protocol we've had for a number of years. They can leave for lunch, but know that when a student leaves, whether it's for study hall or lunch, they are not to come back in the building until the bell rings for the next time. So they all go get Culver's. I'm going to come back. I'm just going to sit in the cafeteria and eat like I normally do, like last year. No, I'm going to have you sit in your car, or you're going to sit outside in the cold and wait because we're not going to let people back in the building until the bell rings for that next passing time, whether that's for lunch or for study hall. So no, that's just an important part to think about when we're thinking about it. And honestly, with seniors that are leaving and juniors, we have some big giant snow piles in our parking lot right now and a lot of blind spots. So please be safe. I know it's certainly not ideal, and we're hoping to find a way to problem solve around that. But we need students to be really safe because it can be a little bit tricky here in the winter. And really, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what our days will look like. I know that there's probably a ton more. I sent some information out last week. I'll be sending a little bit out more tomorrow. I'm kind of reiterating those things. We've got contact information here that you'll have available to you as we that you can always reach out to any one of us at any point that we'll have available for you tomorrow. I know I probably threw a ton of information. We'll have this available for you. I think Dr. Salerno, I saw some things coming in the chat, and I don't know if you've been answering them or if I want to jump onto it or see what I can do here, but.
Just a couple of questions from students.
Yeah. Do virtual students need to attend the second stat just on a Monday or a Thursday? Because that's when we're going to be doing our academic and career planning and mental health and kind of really good check-in. So we just asked, I'd pick the day that my last name was, just be a little bit easier for me to remember. But you certainly can log into one of those two. But after that, you may get requested, but you don't need to be logging in unless you've been requested during that time, and just one of those 2 days. Will there be a dashboard? Yeah, I think Dr. Salerno talked about the dashboard a little bit. And the dashboard will be updated, and we'll be doing it by building. Is that correct, Dr. Salerno? I don't want to misspeak on that, that piece of it.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So we'll have the dashboard up, I think next week, the 22nd, it will actually start to be updated weekly, and you'll be able to see the breakdown per building. Bus transportation. Yeah, so we do have busing transportation, and it will be very similar to what students have kind of gone through prior in terms of pickups. We don't have a ton of students on buses, but they will be dropped off at the IC, similar drop-off points. So that part's not really changing too much. The number of students on the bus and safety bus protocols, each bus will be a little bit different based on the number of students that are on the bus. Some will be every other seat, maybe it'll be 2 seats between people. Really kind of depends on how many students are on that route. It will be cold on the bus, so kind of bundle up because we have to have windows open to keep that air circulation. For families that do have bus transportation, there will be some airflow that needs to be kind of going through there. So I'd make sure you got students bundled up. Sometimes I see students wear t-shirts and a sweatshirt or shorts and a sweatshirt. I'm like, I know that it's winter, but oh my gosh, guy, like got to bundle up here. So, but the bus stop will be the spot that you've had it before. I'll reach out with a little more information to specifically students on that bus route. But the drop-off will be IC. Students will have to walk back. They'll get dropped off roughly around 7:40, 7:45. Take about 5-10 minutes to walk over, which would be perfect time, and you kind of get in right around 7:55, 8 o'clock, which is probably more of our preferred time for students for arrival.
Could I just maybe chime in on the question about airflow on the buses? I, like most people, get a kick out of reading people's suggestions on Facebook and other social media platforms. No, we are not turning down every window on every bus for the kids, especially when they're driving through the cold. We're talking about probably a 1-inch crack on 4 different windows on the bus. We're doing this to comply with the Center for Disease Control protocol, which calls for this. And please know, we'll continue to use good judgment in caring for your kids and, of course, our families. We're grateful the questions and sometimes the laughter too that comes with some of the comments on Facebook.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And do all virtual students log into Stat 1 on Thursday the 18th or the 22nd? Yeah, we're going to want students to log in on the 18th or the 22nd, so they're able to get some of the information that's going to be important regarding efficiency and being able to navigate some of those pieces. So they'll have that kind of choice, I'd say Thursday or Monday, because you kind of get your pick, right? If you want to log in, my brain again goes to what my last name is. It helps me organize, but they can log in, they'll get that information regarding efficiency. We'll also be sharing those slideshows out and sharing out that information, because we want, even though some of that stuff is about in the building, we really want students to know that stuff, because if they're going to come back when we onboard for fourth quarter, we'll also remind them then, but it'd be great to learn that early on. So certainly one of those 2 days they will need to log in during that time. Internet while in class, do I call the office? I think if a student is having logging, internet's going out, very similar to now, I think it's always good to reach out to the teacher and say, hey, this happened. And then just let us know in the office that happened. And we want to certainly make sure that we have things that are excused. I do know that if it comes to be pretty consistent, we want to make sure that we're problem solving around that with you and supporting you and working with you as a family about the consistency of how often that's happening, and making sure that we can do all we can to have the best system in place. But we know that it happens every once in a while. I know my own internet goes out at my house here, and when we're working all virtually and you get cut off, and what do you do? So certainly reach out to the teacher, reach out to us, let us know what's happening, because if it's happening to you, it might be happening all over your neighborhood. And then we gotta let people know, like, hey, staff, this is happening. And if it's happening consistently, maybe for a specific period or specific time, we want to certainly be able to problem solve and work with families to address it the best we can and support families and students and get them what they need. Freshmen will, unfortunately for us, our freshmen will get that great first day that we always have planned, that our link leaders spend so much time. I think it stings. We usually the whole gym, we get the freshmen all day, we do all this really great stuff. Freshmen will come in, they'll go directly to their stand, we'll be out in the halls directing people where to go, and they'll get a tour, and their link leaders will be there on that first stat. So they'll begin kind of a mini orientation, but it certainly does not, it pales in comparison to the great work that is normally done on that first day. But they will get a tour, they'll get a walkthrough with their link leaders talking about being able to answer some questions and see the videos regarding safety protocols. But again, it won't be a full day. We don't get to use the gym and link arms and do all the great things that we really enjoy doing, yelling out the class year and really making the gym loud. So hopefully next fall, we'll cross our fingers, we'll be able to get to that next fall, but unfortunately won't be able to next week. Other questions can we answer tonight to put you at ease or help out in any way possible?
People are welcome to unmute themselves if they'd like to ask a question. We'd be happy to try to answer it for you.
I have a question. I hope it's gonna, when I ride the bus starting the 18th and the 19th and next week, I'm promised to sit as far away from any students as possible.
Austin, I have no doubts that you will follow the safety guidelines. You are always such a great example and a role model for us to follow the rules and follow examples. And we appreciate that, Austin.
This is kind of on topic, but this is really not really too off topic, but you know Kelly's black mask that she wore a few times.
Yep.
And she got them from Costco, and she said she'll probably give me one tomorrow when I come in for in-person learning in the morning.
All right. Well, we want to make sure we have masks for everybody, Austin. I'm glad we can accommodate and get you one, pal. I do see a question here from have access to charging devices. Yes, actually, I just ordered a large plethora. I think I bought out all Amazon's Belkin chargers this past week to their strips. So when a student does have, whether it's a Chromebook or their own device, we will have charging areas for them. The one thing I do ask for families, if you do have a school-issued Chromebook, we ask you to bring it back and forth. We're going to hopefully be able to get 9 to 10 Chromebooks per classroom. But we have some classes that are 12, 13 students, and the more students we can get back and forth with those school-issued Chromebooks will really help us out to make sure everybody has access to a device. We also will, you're welcome to bring your own device if you feel so comfortable. If you do, we can get you the information to log in if you feel comfortable on that. But if you have those school-issued devices, please bring them back and forth, but we certainly will have areas to charge those in each classroom, as we just purchased a bunch of big strips for all those classrooms.
Say, Cody, there's a question also about students who might be coming back around fourth quarter, particularly freshmen. Will there be some kind of orientation for them as well?
Yeah, we certainly can have I'll be honest, I don't have anything planned on the books, but I am happy to have that conversation or find a way, even if it's with 1 or 2 students at a time, where we find a way. Let's find a Wednesday where we can get in and see the building. We're certainly happy to accommodate, to find a way for students to feel comfortable. Because that first day back in fourth quarter could seem awfully overwhelming when everybody else seems to know what's going on. So more stay tuned on that, but that's a great question. Actually, something I'll kind of keep in the back of my mind as we look at the calendar ahead before fourth quarter, what we can do to accommodate and make sure that everybody feels comfortable on that first day of the fourth quarter. So thank you so much for that question, Susan. That's great. We have some Chromebooks available. I would say right now we're kind of got a waiting list available for Chromebooks, just because we're trying to get them out in the classrooms to see what we have come in. We'll make sure that students have access to devices in the classrooms. We're going to try to get to 9 to 10 in each classroom ones we have in the building. Some sections never go over 7, so we're going to shift those around a little bit. But let us know if you need a Chromebook. We'll get you in the list. We'll find a way to either get you one or always make sure that your student has one in the classroom, in the building. And the more that we kind of as a community get together and bring those Chromebooks back and forth that we sent home in the fall, the easier that will be for everybody else. Yeah, lunch. It's a great question. I probably should put that on here in that map. I'm sorry about that. Lunch is going to be kind of a grab and go. We've got a great video that I hope students are going to enjoy on Monday. They're going to go in one door on the side in our tech ed hallway, in the one-way hallway. They're going to go through, they're going to grab their things, and they're going to walk out. Our cafeteria is currently being set up. We're putting away some of the big tables. I got small little desks with 1 chair at each one, 6 feet apart. The booths will have 1 student per booth. And we've got all of our tables will have marked off of where students can sit 6 feet apart, if not more in some cases. I think even 6 feet apart, we could fit over 130 students from front to back in that cafeteria. We won't need that much space because in terms of how our cohorts are currently set up, we have plenty of space to separate students out. So they'll walk in, there'll be dots on the floor, and they'll get this tutorial next week. And they'll walk through one line with a red tray. They'll grab their sandwich. It's all prepackaged. It's all right there for them. And they'll just walk out one line and be able to go sit down. And then they'll walk out, dump, and put their tray in a pile. But we do have a video for that for students next week, and I think it's a pretty good one, and it's pretty thorough. So I know those students will know what they're doing there. If siblings have the same lunchtime, are they able to sit together? You know what? That is a great question. I haven't thought about that one, Matt. I'll be honest. That's a great question. I certainly, I think let's have a conversation about that, and let me think about that. I don't want to kind of a knee-jerk reaction to it, and then something else comes up. So, Matt, let me kind of think about that, or reach out individually, and we can talk about that. But that's a great question.
They want to sit together.
Yeah, maybe they don't want to. That's true. At the high school, maybe they don't want to sit together. That is certainly true. Approximately how many buildings? Depends the cohort. A through K, we're going to be roughly around 220, 230. And L through Z is around 260, I believe, 270. So it's a little bit uneven, but that's the number of if every single student was there every day. We know students are out for illnesses or trips and all these, maybe not so much anymore, I shouldn't say that, but there's always a couple that aren't there, but it's about 230 to 260, give or take some students here and there.
Cody, I've been fielding a number of questions from families about what's the game plan to return to 5 days a week full time. And I thought maybe if you don't mind me just sharing some information we continue to hear from Public Health Madison, Dane County. We regularly do seek clarification from PHMDC about whether or not this is even permissible. And as recently as last week, we were told, their words, not mine, pump the brakes on that. And in fact, this morning when I sought clarification on their term about 6 feet to the greatest extent possible, that's their language in their order, I was told, and I'm quoting again, the term the greatest extent possible is not meant to operationalize the 3 feet physical distancing piece that many of us have been reading from the Harvard study. We do know that Public Health Medicine, Dane County, continue to look at the data. We continue to ask the question on behalf of those who are interested. I also want to clarify that, again, rumor, but nonetheless, it's important to address it because it does seem to be gaining steam. You know, true or false, will Mount Horeb Area School District only return students to school once all staff have been vaccinated? That seems to be a theme that comes around from families that I've been getting emails on. Facebook, again, sometimes the bane of our existence, quite frankly. No, obviously, we're returning kids to school now. We're returning kids to school next week, and unfortunately, it doesn't appear as though all staff will have access to a vaccine until March 1st, if even then. Many of the vaccination clinics that have been hosted for those over age 65, which is under the current prioritization schedule, those vaccination clinics have actually been canceled and need to be rescheduled. So we are continuing to advocate to get as much vaccine as possible, but you read the papers, you know as well as I do, this is a call all throughout the country, in fact, the world. So please, when you see silliness on Facebook, don't be afraid to call us and get the skinny, the real scoop. We'll try to stay ahead of it, but by you being on this call tonight, it just exemplifies your commitment to gathering the true facts, and we're going to do everything we can to provide that for you while maintaining your students and our staff safety.
Steve, again, any other questions, whether you can pop a microphone on or into the chat? I haven't seen anything yet, but again, I really want to make sure that even if you don't think of the question now, you think in a half hour, oh, I should have asked that. Please feel free to reach out at any point. Like Dr. Slano said, I want to be available as much as we possibly can. I will say that I've taken off my own Facebook because it tends to be a lot of, I would say, misinformation or opinions that maybe aren't based in fact, that kind of what we're doing at the high school or other buildings. And so please reach out. I'll be able to get the answers. And if we miss something, we'll be the first ones to admit it, make the change, and do right. So know that we'll certainly make right by it and get all the answers that we possibly can. Because in the end, this is about students' education and about safety for our staff and for our students. And then, well, in extension, families as well.
Well, Cody, I think that rounded out our questions. A great night. Oh, it looks like someone. Oh, Susan Susan, you had a question. You raised your hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering, when the kids are working virtually, and let's say internet is wonderful as it always is, and it cuts out, do they just email the teachers like they're currently doing?
Yeah,
We'll continue that practice, Susan. I don't want to put a whole new practice into play for something like that. I think we've got a system we feel works for the most part. We know that there's sometimes a miscommunication, or when that happens, we'll continue with the same process that we're doing now.
Thank you.
I think that rounds us out. Principal Lundquist, thank you for your leadership in these unique times. I see Talisa and Colleen as well. Both of them have been exemplary. And I think it goes without saying how grateful we are to the staff of the high school, truly making magical things happen in the face of great adversity. We appreciate the partnership that we have with our families. You all make us better. And remember, no questions too silly or too small. Please know we're here for you. With that, just have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Mr. Lundquist, I have a question.
Yeah, pal, what's up?
Oh, my mom just joined.
What's going on, bud?
And I have some questions to tell you.